Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Andrew Ruffin and today I'm here with author Jamie Hughes. Jamie, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. So can we please get started by you telling us all a little bit about your professional background?
Sure. So I'm a social psychologist, author, life coach, and my professional background, worked in nonprofit uh, for most of my career. Worked in children's hospitals with severely ill or injured children and their families, and then worked in the domestic violence and sexual assault field for several years. Have my bachelor's in psychology and my master's in social psychology with a specialization in trauma.
Wow,
So
okay.
that's about it. That's the short version.
All right, well, very impressive. Now you released a set of books this year all about different mental health conditions. It looks like the first was about anxiety, is that correct?
Yes, that was the first one, managing everyday anxiety.
Okay. First of all, can you give us a brief description of what anxiety actually is?
So everybody experiences anxiety. It's a normal part of life. We tend to call it just nervousness. So when there's something happening or about to happen that, you're not 100% sure of the results, you tend to get nervous. Well, anxiety, clinical anxiety, is that same feeling, but dialed up times five, times 10, and it doesn't always have a stimulus. There's not always a specific reason. Your senses, your nervous system just goes into overreaction over little cues that may not necessarily mean anything. So it's just there. It's a part of a person's body, more so than the mind. I know all mental illness, we tend to talk about the mind, but anxiety especially is in the body. It's your nervous system. And so it just gives you that feeling, uneasy feeling, that fear and dread and just nervousness on a regular basis. Again, sometimes without a specific reason.
Okay, so since you say without a specific reason, um, anyone can end up with anxiety. Are there certain types of people that are more prone to have anxiety?
Um, so there's a little bit of still a little bit of a debate between genetics and environment, but almost guaranteed that if a person as an adult has anxiety disorder, they probably had childhood trauma. That's
Okay,
the number one common factor.
okay. Now, how does anxiety usually present itself?
So a person will feel uneasy about even little things. Like I said, things that don't necessarily warrant a normal reaction, and they will feel it in their body. So it's not like a person sits and thinks, this bothers me. I remember this from childhood or whatever. So now I'm afraid of it. It's instant like that. But on top of just that feeling, it also affects a person's sleep. So people with anxiety tend to get less sleep. It affects their diet. It affects their digestive system. So people with anxiety tend to have more problems with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, things like that, acid reflux. And so, like I said, it is in the body, your nervous system. So it affects a little bit of everything.
Okay. So, what would you say someone can do to begin to work on experiencing less anxiety in their daily life?
So for their daily life, one thing is to get professional help if you need it. If it's at a point where you feel like you can't control it, then definitely go see a doctor, start therapy. Those are both very important tools in mental health. They're not the only ones, though. Don't stop there. So many
Okay.
people go and, take this or that and think, okay, it's fixed. It's going to cure us after this. It's not. From there, you want to really start to become a student of yourself and start noticing. when you have these feelings in your body, uh, is there anything that's triggering that? Uh, the the biggest things for anxiety, I would say, once you start getting the help medically or psychologically, is diet and exercise.
Okay.
Again, your physical health equals your mental health. And especially with anxiety, if you can start working out, walking, running, playing tennis, swimming, anything, and get consistent on it, just pick something and get consistent, then your symptoms will go down dramatically. They won't be as severe and they won't be as often.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Now, you've also written about managing adult ADHD. Can you give us a definition of adult ADHD, please?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Adult ADHD, that's one of my favorites, partially because I have it. So,
Okay.
it's just fun to play with. Um, Uh, we still have sometimes some misconception between the childhood version and the adult version. The childhood tends to have more of the hyperactivity part, thus the H in it. So in adulthood, you'll sometimes see it ADD without that H in it, but it's really the same thing. It just kind of shifts focus. So in adults, you see more what we would call scatterbrained. People will start activities and then get distracted, squirrel, and then forget what they were doing in the first place.
Right.
Or they'll tend to take on like five, six, seven, eight, nine things all at one time and then start losing track. Um, it also can affect your sleep, can affect your physical health. Um, so it comes tends to not every case, but it does tend to come with anxiety and depression kind of as a backseat driver type thing.
Mhm.
It tends to be there, may not be the overwhelming condition that a person faces,
Uh-huh.
but it does tend to come hand in hand. And there's also a lot of internal noise. In other words, their mind is racing a lot.
Mhm.
You can be talking with someone with ADHD, and it looks like they're agreeing with you. They're nodding their head. Inside of their head is
Yeah.
um, and it's very tiring. A person with ADHD will just find themselves fatigued. And it's a physical fatigue, but it comes from that all that mental noise. It's just out of control sometimes. Um, and they also tend to have, again, all of these things are on a spectrum.
Mhm.
You may have a symptom and it may not be severe, even if it's present, or you may have like all of these and none of these. Um, I'm more uh, organized. A lot of people with adult ADHD are disorganized, just see stuff scattered everywhere. I'm
Mhm.
the opposite of that. I'm more organized. If it's not organized, I'm not happy. But that internal like judgment, like, oh, people just don't like me. People don't because I'm different or because I can't do this or that or whatever. There's a lot of that internal judgment that
Okay.
often comes with ADHD and has actually led to, I won't say a new problem, but it's one that's kind of come to light more recently, and that's called rejection sensitivity. We've found that it's very common for people with ADHD. Um, you could say something very neutral to me, like, "Oh, I see you're wearing that shirt. Man, I hate that movie. That's the stupidest movie I've ever seen in my life." I take it personal. I'm like,
Mhm.
God, they don't like me. You
Uh,
know, that's a very common problem with ADHD that we've seen. So yeah, it's it's more, there's a lot more to it than just the squirrel, just the redirection and misdirection um, part of it.
yeah, because a lot of those things that you've just said, I never would have associated with ADHD ever. So it's
Hmm.
very interesting to learn that.
Yeah.
So dealing with all of those things possibly at once or at different times, what are some ways that you personally are managing those symptoms?
So a few tricks that I've learned over the years, and I've been, I grew up suffering with depression, and then the ADHD stuff didn't it really didn't present itself until much later in life. I think I probably always had some of it, but it was just kind of, undercover. Um, and so I've spent a lot of time, a lot of years in healing and growth. And a few things I've learned that helped me. One is keeping sticky notes and calendars and notebooks, whatever I need to make sure that my priorities are there and that I am working on my priorities. So I'm less likely to get distracted. I still do sometimes. I mean, that's just every person can get distracted. But again, the ADHD is just like that's a kind of a normal daily routine. There's the distraction, but I've made it intentional to map out my routine and my priorities. And I keep that. I keep working on it. That helps me a lot. The other thing that's really helped me is meditation. Every single morning, my routine is when I get up, I make a cup of coffee and I sit down. I have my meditation for about 30 minutes. And I've been doing that for years now. And it's made such a huge difference in my life. It helps you to regulate your nervous system. It's not just about being able to think of nothing. You can't think of nothing. You maybe for like 2 seconds, but that's not the point. The point you learn is to calm yourself from the inside. And that part of meditation has really made a huge difference in my day-to-day life.
Wow. Okay. Very insightful. Thank you for that. Um, the next topic that we'll talk about will be managing everyday PTSD. And I'm very excited to hear your thoughts on PTSD because a lot of people don't think of it as an everyday thing. A lot of people
Mhm.
think of it as something that you had a very traumatic event, and then maybe something will come along and trigger that. But a lot of people have actually been through things that little things, little daily things can come along and trigger that for them. So what is the definition of that?
Absolutely. So post-traumatic stress disorder, um, it's interesting because it's a lot better now in terms of the understanding, but there's still some myth out there, and I think that myth being that it has to be like a soldier in war, that you have to witness something like that or witness an explosion or something like that, and that's just not the case. Definitely they can get PTSD, but um, people that regularly experience PTSD are children that went through or adults that went through child abuse, sexual assault survivors, people that have been in that. It's very common to develop PTSD. Um, so it's not just the, most extreme cases. It can be, especially in childhood trauma, it can be something like abuse or neglect that just happens over a long period of time. And so it's the same type of thing, but it's repetitive, and that leads to it can lead to PTSD. The biggest thing about PTSD is just like with anxiety, it's in your body, but with PTSD, it's in both your subconscious and in your body. So it almost always takes work on both, to start improving and to move towards healing. In your body, it's basically like whatever you've experienced, whether it was one big tragic event or whether it was a lot of smaller events, repetitive. It's like your body, your nervous system is made to respond to danger. Our bodies are made that way. When if you're walking in the woods and you see a bear a few hundred feet away, you don't have to stop and think about that. You will either run or you're going to freeze something. You're going to have an automatic response, and
Right.
that's your autonomic, nervous system there. Well, the way that works is because your system floods your body with chemicals to make you do something. So it's cortisol and adrenaline. Um, so if it's something scary and your body says run, you just start running. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to do anything. It's automatic. Well, with trauma, your nervous system kind of gets stuck. And so it's always producing more cortisol or adrenaline than what you need. And it's producing it at times that it's not called for. So it can lead to all this physical illness, but with the PTSD, especially, your body is trying to, your body is still trying to process this event. Even years later, it's trying to figure out what happened and why. And sometimes the way it does that is through flashbacks. People can just see it. I'll just be standing there and staring off into space, and they're seeing something in their mind. This picture can be nightmares, or they call them night terrors. Um, so it's a repetitive, it's not like, a couple times a year you might have a bad dream. This is something that happens over and over and over, and you can't sleep. And then, of course, the hypervigilance, hypersensitivity. People with PTSD, that's one of the trademark symptoms is their mind is always looking for danger because there's been this trauma. So their body's kind of stuck, like we're in danger all the time from now on. So it absolutely, there has to be some somatic, which just means movement of the body. You have to get it out. You have to work it out of the body physically and work with the mind to change the thought pattern of what happened, reducing some of that sensitivity.
Okay. Now, in terms of working with the mind, um, what would be an example of an exercise or something that someone could do in that endeavor, trying to retrain their mind?
Yeah, so something a person could do on their own. Meditation, again, works great. Yoga actually works very well with PTSD because it has both. So you're moving your body at the same time you're quieting your mind. So you're sort of tricking your nervous system into saying, calm down while there's still motion, while there's still movement and effort. So it's bringing it back into a balance. Journaling is phenomenal. I'm a certified journaling instructor, have used it for years myself, have taught it for years, and that works very well for PTSD because it gives a person a safe space to just write down everything, all their feelings, all their memories, what they've felt about it, what they think about it, etc. And you keep doing it and you keep doing it and you keep doing it. And then you start working into reframing, which is used in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Reframing is just, okay, this happened then, and I know it happened, and I'm not there now. Now I'm
Right.
safe. Um, that alone is not enough to fix your nervous system, but it's that mental health part to where you can start working on the subconscious thought patterns and changing those.
Okay. Now, I noticed you just mentioned journaling. Now, your next release is going to be a mental health journal. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Hey, why don't you tell us about that?
Sure, yeah. So this is a journal that is specifically for um, mental health. And, you don't have to be struggling with a deep mental illness to use it. It is just the prompts in it includes 50 different prompts. So you go and it's a question and you answer the question. But they're specifically meant for deeper reflection and self-discovery and self-awareness. So it's something that someone can take and really take some time and get down into just learning more about themselves, learning more about their thoughts and feelings, and just the fact of getting those out will help kind of bring that balance back to any mental health issues.
Okay, that is awesome. Jamie, you have done a lot of work for a lot of people, and I believe that everything that you've written is going to help a lot of people. Those of you out there that are watching, if you are interested in any of Jamie's work, you can just click on the links below. It'll take you directly to his books. Jamie, thank you so much for being with me today. It has been incredibly, incredibly interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. I enjoyed it.
All right. Now, those of you watching, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.